Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Sister Lida Asks. Tonight we have the illustrious and world-famous T. T is a costume designer, a reality baker and chocolatier, and a circus artist. T, you're an all-around amazing human!
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being here, T, and it's so good to see you.
Thank you for having me. It's so delightful to have a reason to actually put on pants. Just kidding, I'm not wearing pants.
Neither am I. T, times sure are crazy.
Yes.
Could you tell us if there's something you've done which you've been proud of this week?
Yeah, I actually, I've been spending a lot of time really like diving into the art forms that I do, that I'm allowed to do at home. I mainly am a trapeze artist, so I can't do that. But I've really gone back to really like kind of custom artisanal sewing techniques. And I made a really nice leather handbag for myself. It's hanging on my door. And I just really took the time to like do every step perfectly and just measure everything and not rush because there's literally no deadline for me to finish this bag. So I just really indulged in the kind of the fun of crafting something really meticulously.
Wow, sisters love bags. Did you have any problems with your needles? I know leather is really hard to sew with.
It's really cute.
Good. I'm so excited to hear that.
I have a degree in costume design, so my sewing abilities and sewing room are quite full of things. So I have a ton of leather needles for my machine, top stitch needles, literally any needle you need, I have it. Um, yeah.
Have you made any positive or negative discoveries this week? And if so, what are they? I found out that I'm better at cooking, and I know that I need to make more time before I'm reactionary. So those are my positive and negative discoveries. How about you?
Specifically last week for me was probably the worst week so far. If you asked me what happened last week, like I can't really tell you a specific like this happened and that's why I had a bad day. I was just like it was harder for me to like figure out how to get through this. I really like projects. I like knowing that I have something to work on and picking a project to keep myself busy. I am definitely someone that does better when I have too much to do. So having nothing to do is probably my worst enemy. So yeah, picking baking projects, sewing projects, um, creative projects in general, just like figuring out each day, what do I want to make today? What do I want to learn today? Is really helpful. And when there's some days when I just don't feel like making or learning, and then I kind of just exist and get through the day. And those are definitely like my least favorite days. But I knew that about myself from before. I've always known that I do best when under pressure. So yeah, I think it's just been about really planning, oh, next Tuesday I'm going to do this and not having to figure out when I wake up on Tuesday, what should I make today? Like I have already planned it so that it's almost like when people like plan their meals. I've been planning my creative pursuits.
Yeah, oh God. I'm sorry to hear that it was a hard week for you. I think we all have kind of waves in this experience. That's at least what I've been discovering. Um, I had said that I found out that I was better at cooking. I know than
Yeah,
I thought. And
you did that thing.
I did that. I made a delicious eggplant parmesan, a tikka masala. So I've been really excited about that. And on the negative ends or the discovery ends, I have really learned that when you're in this pressure cooker environment, you need to take the time to kind of go, is this something I need to react to? Or am I just in unfortunate circumstances? I know. And maybe not every situation is a fire. So those are some of the things that I have figured out sort of about myself and what this shelter in place situation um, means, at least for me and my experience with the people that I move around with and that I interact with. And my roommates and I made a pact at the beginning of this, and it was kind of like, no matter what we do to each other in this time, it doesn't count because we're not
Yeah,
really authentically
that's real.
ourselves. How has this pandemic affected you and what you're doing with your work, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, I work full time at Esh Circus Arts in Somerville, and I am one of the kind of lead teachers there. So I teach usually around 15 classes a week there, and then train all day and teach private lessons. And none of that's happening right now in person. My school is offering some online classes that we can do. So there's like dance classes, flexibility, handstands, things that are capable of doing at home. And so I am teaching a whopping 4 classes a week right now. Yes.
Yeah.
So my yeah, I am just doing what I can, and I also found that I really find value in my I don't know what the word is, my role as a teacher. When we first started the lockdown, we didn't have any set up for like our online classes. We had to create that from scratch, and my owners and my management team are flippin' incredible and have pulled an entire new business structure out of a hat. So there was like a week and a half maybe where I had literally nothing to do because we hadn't figured out our online classes yet. And I remember the first class I taught once we started the online classes. I just started crying because it was so important to me to lead and to help educate and create learning opportunities for people. And so like the fact that I could do that again was like a huge catharsis.
What does community mean to you, and how do you personally make community in your life? Because it's so important.
Community is really great. I I find it really important. It's funny because I'm a huge introvert. So like community can sometimes be me in my room. Like that is a community of mine. But then like my school is this huge community, and community to me is like no questions asked. Like that is to me kind of the definition of a community is like if I can come to someone and just be like, can I get a ride? Or like, it's 2 a.m. and I message someone, I'm like, I think you're online right now. Like, do you have a ruler? And it's just like, they are not even like, what are you doing up at 2 a.m. or whatever? They're like, oh my God, I have 3 rulers. Do you want the metal one or the wooden one? Like, can I drop it off to you? Or do you want like to come here and pick it up? It's just like no questions asked. And that's like really what community means to me. And like, so I really love that. Like one thing my school does, like I keep referencing my school. My school is a community. It's a huge interpersonal and like work related community. But we have this student Facebook group where like everyone can post. And usually it's circus related. Usually it's like, oh, I'm not gonna make it to class tonight. Someone can take my spot. And then sometimes someone's just like, hey, does anyone know a personal injury lawyer? And like 6 people are like, my husband's a personal injury lawyer. He'll do it pro bono. Like he's calling you later tonight. It's like just absolute support, like no matter what. And that means everything to me.
I recently hired someone to do my taxes, which was amazing because I'm 1099 and it's very, very complicated. So I love that in my community. They came on, they saw my post, they were like, I can help you do that. And
Girl, as an independent contractor,
you hear me, it's so helpful. I used to do it all by myself, and now after 8 years, I don't have to do it anymore. It was get 2 bottles of wine, drink the bottles of wine.
oh, okay. I've
boop,
never
boop, boop,
had
boop,
that.
boop, hit the numbers, go for it. I mean, come on, you've never had a bottle of wine? But I don't think I can ever go back. Right? So community is really what you build and what you foster. And it takes work. It's like having a garden or raising a child or having a pet. You have to nurture your community for your community to nurture you. It's a two-way street. And I'm so grateful that you're part of my community. And it's been an absolute pleasure to watch you grow. If you're finding yourself alone right now, community is just a phone call or a computer or a television away. You're literally not alone right now, and I think that's the important thing to remember. Uh, I know it's funny because I think we take it for granted, but there might be someone out there who doesn't know the resources that they have at hand, and oh God, I'm so grateful at the outpouring that I've seen over the past. Has it been 2 months? Almost 3 months. I know time means nothing anymore. And that outpouring of support and hey, are you okay? Or I've sent you a postcard, or I'm sending you my family jewelry.
You did.
So I'm super grateful for the community that I have in my life, and I'm really glad that we were able to reschedule this conversation. Thank you for making yourself available. There's nothing more humbling than learning.
So technology. I was on Food Network Canada's new show, Great Chocolate Showdown.
Right. How did you develop a love for baking? But before you tell me that, can you distill that experience into one word?
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion? How did you develop a love for baking?
So speaking about community, because it always pretty much comes back to that. About 2 years ago, I was unable to live in a place for a while. Me and my roommate, we had to leave the house that we had lived in, and we didn't really have any other housing lined up for a while. So my boss, Ellen, she offered for me to live with her and Roger, who's my other boss. Both of them are my really good friends too. And so I lived in their guest room for 2 months. And Ellen is a super baker. She's amazing. And we would pretty much come home from work every night and just watch like at least one episode of Great British Bake Off. And she would like mutter under her breath about like, oh, that's too much flour, you know, or something. And so I was like, oh, baking, what? And so then they went on vacation and I was still living in their house. And I wanted to surprise them by making them a cake. And I was like, I'm going to make a mirror glazed cake. And it was a trash heap. It was like the worst idea ever. But I decided I was going to make it. And I really wanted to surprise her with it. And it was horrible. But like the start of almost every creative passion that I have, I suck at it at first. And then I obsess over getting better. So I started baking about 2 years ago.
Who's helped you along the way, and what does that help mean to you?
I've had some really amazing help. I am completely self-taught in that I didn't go to pastry school, but I am not self-taught in the sense that I did all of this myself. I've had some really great people come out of the woodwork. A friend of mine who I taught when I was touring in Edinburgh, she reached out to me and she was like, hey, let me know if you want any help with any recipes or whatever. Like, I love baking. And I guess I like didn't process what she was saying to me. And then all of a sudden she's like, no, I'm a pastry chef in a Michelin star restaurant. And I was like, oh. So she's been really great. She's my friend Jennifer. And she's just super great. I can reach out to her all the time and just be like, Jen, what happened to this thing? And I'll take photos. And she's like, ooh, girl, like, this is what you did wrong. And so she's great and, like, super amazing. And then since the show, like, honestly, everyone on the show, all the cast and crew, like, we are a huge support network for each other and our own community. Um, so like me and the other bakers, we talk literally every day on a group chat that we have, and then we each like talk individually, and we, I'll call them because like they all know that cakes are not my specialty, and so they're like, I'm like, girl, like what did I just do? How do I make this cake fixed? And like my friend Vanessa, it'll be like 2 in the morning, and she'll call me and she'll just like walk me through solving my problem, and so I just like everyone from the cast and crew of that show has been such a godsend.
I know that without help you can't grow, so I'm definitely grateful for help. What's one of your first or worst failures that you've had as a baker? First or worst?
Yeah, we're gonna go back to that mirror glaze cake that I
Oh
tried
no.
making.
No, no, no.
So back to the subject of me sucking at cakes and trying to get better. Um, I was like, I'm gonna make a cake. I'm gonna make a mirror glaze cake because that's everyone's first cake is a mirror glaze cake. And I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I made this like tragedy sponge, which like immediately turned into a brick. Like it was an actual brick. I could have hurt people with it. And then I made this like sad, grainy frosting. And then I put it in the freezer because I knew you have to make mirror glaze on a frozen dessert. So I was like, this cake is frozen. So I waited a whole day, and then I made mirror glaze, and I poured the boiling hot mirror glaze onto the frozen creamed cake. So then I had a melted puddle of soup cake all over the kitchen.
Ooh, soup
Did I
cake.
remind you that I was living at my friend's house and in their like beautiful kitchen, and I was like, cool. Just like got like gelatin all over everything. Great. Um, so that cake was probably the worst thing I've ever produced in my life.
Um,
No, I it was in a photo of it and sent it to them, and I was like, this would be a great surprise for you. Nailed it. And and yeah, that cake was never eaten by anyone because honestly, I didn't have dental insurance at the time, so like I did not want to risk um biting into this cake.
what was your first or best success as a baker?
Well, first or best? What you want? Okay.
Both.
First success as a baker. I did the first ever time I was gonna make macarons was for my friend Jen's birthday, and uh, I would make macarons. I'm gonna do it. And at that point, I had been watching videos and like reading about macarons for like 2 months. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. And I can't tell you what happened, but like I made perfect macarons on my first day, which is like not a thing that's like mind you, I had many failures after I actually got better. But like the first try, she did, and she did it. Like she did it great. So I got to make macarons for my friend's birthday, and it was super great. Um, and then I'm gonna say my best achievement in baking. I have to say, I think it was on the show, and I think it was for episode it was episode 5 when I had to make we had to reinvent the Black Forest cake, and I made this tart that I had imagined in my head, and I was like, I'm gonna make this tart that literally has a floating second level to it, and it's gonna have 5 different like mousses and creams inside of it, and I'm gonna make it in under 90 minutes, and I'm going to succeed. And I pushed myself harder than I'd ever baked in my entire life for that challenge. And the entire time I had no clue if it was gonna work. And I just remember like I broke down sobbing at the end of that because I had to like continue to believe in myself the entire time, regardless of what I thought was going on or not. And I just like had to keep like actively believing in myself, and then it paid off because like it happened and it worked. And so I was like really proud of that.
Um, how did you decide to apply for this competition? And you know,
So I did not, and none of us
oh,
did. This is like our favorite thing about how this show happened. All of us were found on Instagram, and we got this sketchy message from my friend Rachel, who is now my good friend, but she was the casting director. And she sent this sketchy message to us that was like, here's a show. If you Google it, you'll never find anything about it. And if you Google the production company, you might not find anything about it. So you should send us your information. And I was like, what? So I like obviously Googled the show. It didn't exist yet because this was the first season. So like you can't find anything on Google. So I was like, maybe this is like literally a credit card scam or something. Who knows? But I was like, who knows? I'll send them. So I was like, you can email me. Here's my email. And so they sent me like actual like real emails, and I was like, oh, okay. So then I got cast, and I went and we filmed the show, and the rest is history.
what's one thing that people don't know about reality shows?
How long everything is. Everything takes forever. Um, yeah, no, I remember coming back from filming, and at the point we weren't supposed to tell anyone we were on the show. So I had said I was on vacation, and everyone was like, "Why do you look so tired if you were just on vacation for 3 weeks?" And I was like, "You don't even know." Um, I no, it's exhausting. It takes forever. Every like filming days were like 5 a.m. to like 1 a.m. Um, so like everything takes forever. Everything takes forever.
That sounds like a real emotional and psychological emotional stress.
Oh, of course. I mean, you're like, I mean, obviously, like, if you zoom out, you're like, it's just a TV show, and like, everything will be okay. Like, if you get voted off, like, it's like, okay, cool. And like, none of us were professional, like, pastry chefs at that point. We're all like home bakers. So, like, it wasn't even my career on the line. It was just like, I'll just go home. It's fine. And then all of a sudden, because like sleep deprivation, um, so yeah, your emotions are running high, your confidence is growing, but also you're sleep deprived the whole time. So I was like, you're all of a sudden like your brain convinces you that like if you get sent home, like your life is over. And so you're like, ah! And it's just like it's so weird because like maybe one of the funnest experiences I've ever had in my life, and also like the most like troublesome and exhausting experiences of my whole life.
Wow. That sounds a little frightening. What scares you?
What scares me? I mean, right now I spend a lot of time um unsure of like what is our future, like not just like what is our immediate future of like will I live or die or anything, but like what is the world going to be like, how are we going to interact, how are we um how are we going to move through and past, if there is such a thing, this just because like my main career involves very close contact. Like when I'm teaching circus, I am up in your business, and then like what if that how is that going to look? And so I have a lot of fear right now about trying to not obsess over like what I think might be the truth coming up, and just letting myself get to it when I get to it. And there's no point and or benefit in like imagining these horrible scenarios. So we'll see.
So I'm also an entertainer, and I understand momentum, and gig economy is built upon momentum. We get to build that world and continue to digitally grow our markets
What?
and skill sets. I know. So on the other side, if we keep doing this research, we will build more skill sets. And please don't forget to get therapy, because we're having a collective trauma experience right now, and that's um, like nothing we've ever experienced before. And I want to remind everybody that it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to not understand what's going on right now. There's so many unknowns. Like, will I have a job? Will I be able to fly? Do I have to get a special card? We don't know yet. And that's okay. It's so okay. But you don't have to suffer by yourself. And just do little things every day to keep your momentum moving forward. That's really been my mantra. My mantra word has been momentum. So resources are available. Reach out to us if you need help finding them. We'd be happy to do whatever we can to help you. What is your favorite dessert to eat? And why?
Okay, I have to think about this for a second.
Okay,
I'm like
give it a
going back
second.
into my life, like when did I have like the most delicious dessert? Um, hmm. There's so many. I love dessert. Um, what's my favorite dessert? My favorite dessert. Um, okay, I'm gonna say that my favorite dessert is. Oh, you know what I really like? I like a molten lava chocolate cake with like a creme anglaise situation going on. I think yeah, I'm gonna say that's probably my favorite.
What's your favorite dessert to cook, and why?
I mean, my obvious favorite is always gonna be macarons because like that's like where my heart is.
You're the
Um,
macaron queen.
Macaron queen, girl. Um, yeah. I don't know why I have to come up with a separate answer. Yeah, that macarons done.
We totally don't. Here's a big one. What's the difference between cheap and expensive chocolate?
Okay, this is my favorite thing. So, fun fact, I just graduated from chocolate school, so I'm a certified chocolatier now. Um, yes.
Yes.
So here's the deal. Cheap versus expensive chocolates. A lot of mass-produced chocolate, and when I say mass-produced, I'm talking about like Nestle, Hershey's. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about a chocolatier that like ships everywhere. I'm talking about like the major companies. So
Mm-hmm.
they are reducing some of the content in your chocolate that is more expensive and switching it out for things that are slightly less expensive. You're still eating chocolate, right? Like none of it is like magically not chocolate except for like the candy melts you buy at like Michael's craft store. Like that is not chocolate. Please don't eat that and go like, chocolate. Um, but like if it is a chocolate product, it's gonna have chocolate. It's gonna have cocoa solids in it. It's probably gonna have cocoa butter in it, but it's probably gonna have things like vegetable oil swapped out, um, and like maybe some like coconut sugar stuff like that, just to like flesh out the product a little more so they can get a little more out of it, without using like the really expensive stuff.
I've heard that some chocolate chips contain wax. If this is true, why? And is it dangerous to me?
Some do contain wax. Essentially, what you're gonna find in a lot of cheaper chocolates are things that solidify at room temperature, because the whole thing about chocolate is having it in temper. So if you have like a really nice chocolate bar that's nice and shiny and hard, and it cracks when you bend it or snap it, that is a well tempered bar, right? So like even your Hershey bar at the candy store is technically well tempered. Having said that, um, a well tempered bar is also really susceptible to getting knocked out of temper with temperature. And when you're shipping things all across the world or storing them in boxes in the back of a convenience store, it's hard to promise that those chocolate bars can stay in temper. So there's other things added to them that can solidify at room temperature, like wax, right? When you melt a candle, it's liquid, but then when it cools, it goes back to being solid. So there's all these substitutions that can be added, that are completely edible, right? Like, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for like the crook chocolatier somewhere, but like the main chocolate additives that you're gonna find are completely edible. They're not actual like true chocolate.
The Crook Chocolatier. I love that answer. Thank you for explaining that to me.
Okay, this is my hot topic about chocolate because
Yeah.
everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are say that white chocolate is not chocolate. Um, White chocolate is chocolate because to have something be chocolate, you need cocoa solids and cocoa butter. Those two things are extracted from the cacao bean, right? You get cacao bean, you do the process, and that separates it into cocoa butter and cocoa solids. And then you can add the two together in different quantities to produce different types of chocolate. White chocolate has no cocoa solids, right? So like the brown chocolate that you're eating, that part is the cocoa solid. White chocolate has no cocoa solid, but it has cocoa butter, right? So good white chocolate, and we're not talking about like cookies and cream bar. I'm talking about like good white chocolate. Good white
Mm.
chocolate is going to have a really beautiful, rich cocoa butter, and then it's going to have different vanillas or maybe some milk powders, and that's ground down and processed and tempered like chocolate because oh wait, it is. So my equivalent for that is if I served you a egg white omelet, right, and it like had beautiful peppers in it and some spinach and maybe some sausage, and like I made you this beautiful egg white omelet and I handed it to you and you're like, this is not an egg omelet. And I'm like, well, it's an egg white omelet, so get over it, right? Like, so my take on the is white chocolate chocolate is yes.
Wow. Thank you for clearing up the myth of chocolate for me. What's a common mistake that people make with chocolate? I didn't know that about white
My
chocolate.
pleasure. Can we do a non-chocolate myth also for a second? It's
Let's
not
do
a
it.
myth. Macaron is the almond flour cookie that is sandwiched in French patisserie. Macaroon with two O's is the coconut cookie that a lot of Jewish kids will have remembered eating a lot, that are often covered in chocolate. So here's the way you can remember. Macaron has one O, like in the word almond. Macaroon has two O's, like in the word coconut. There you go.
What's a common mistake that people make with
Thank you.
chocolates? No, thank you.
Well,
uh,
because like everyone congratulated me. They're like, girl, your macaroons were amazing. And I'm like, thank you. One O.
you are the macaron
Just like,
queen.
get it right.
So back to that common mistake. What is the common mistake that people make with chocolates?
Okay. So this has actually been like my conspiracy theory over the past few months. So I started chocolate school in January, and before that, I had obviously tempered chocolate because I had worked on the show and I had done chocolate since then. And there are two main methods to tempering chocolate. Tempering chocolate is the action of melting the chocolate down and then reshaping it, but keeping it in that nice hard structure. Um, so you can make your own chocolate things. And there are two main ways. There's the seeding method and there's the table method. Seeding method is when you put the chocolate in a bowl, you melt it down, and then you add some actually tempered chocolate into it to kind of get all of the chocolate crystals to recognize, like, oh, hey, let's be like that guy. And all the crystals will organize. Table tempering is when you melt the chocolate down, pour it on that huge metal slab, and you see the chocolatier, scraping the chocolate all around. And those are actually two completely different scientific processes. So they're both tempering chocolate, and they both involve melting the chocolate, but how they get to temper is so different. And a lot of people end up confusing the two and doing the wrong science process for the wrong one. And it's not that you can't get the right. You'll get something that's good in the end, but you're doing a lot of unnecessary steps.
What did it mean to you to represent the queer community on television?
Ooh. I mean, it it was amazing. It was lovely. I kind of went in thinking I was very much a token something. Because when I first got cast, I didn't really have a lot of faith in myself as a baker. I just thought, my friends like what I make and whatever. And so I kind of went in going like, I'm the like sassy circus guy, and they'll be like, "Do, do, 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 do," and I was like, this is what I'm here for. I get it. And then they like didn't ask me to do any circus stuff, and they didn't ask me to be that sassy. They were just like, your baking is really good. So I kind of slowly was like, huh, I'm actually just a really good baker, and I'm not needing to like be some kind of like cliched thing. Um, so like while I was really happy to represent the queer community and represent the circus community and all of the communities that I belong in, I was also really happy that I wasn't there standing for anything. I wasn't, I was just there being me, and I didn't have some kind of agenda that I was trying to fulfill for me or for like the TV show.
Thanks for answering that question. That was really personal. I think you represented femme and masculine. I, as a femme person, could see myself, and I wanted to thank you for that. Um, Seeing yourself represented in media is so, so important. Um, Thank you. Thank you so much. We don't often see representations of ourselves out there in digital media or
Of course, and
books.
I have to, whenever people talk about any of my glam magic from that show, I need to shout out to Sharon, who was my makeup artist for the show. She did my fierce eyeliner every episode, and we had fun coming up with a different combination for each episode. It was kind of fun. We did like a meal planning where we are like, okay, if we do purple top lid on episode 3, then maybe if I get to episode 4, then we can do purple bottom wing with silver dots on top. We just like sat down and meal planned my eyeliner looks for each episode, and it was really fun. And
Um,
then when I cried all the time, she was
oh,
the one who touched all of that up.
you gotta have that. Did you have any allies on the show?
I mean, everyone. Like,
Mm.
it was the most supportive like work environment I've ever been in outside of circus. Like, the cast, the crew, I mean, the 10 bakers that competed, like, we are all best friends for life. Some people think we were trauma bonded by that experience, but like, we have each other's backs so much. And then, like, so many people on the crew, like, everyone wanted us to succeed. Um, Everyone wanted us to do really well. So, um, like, literally every person on that show was an ally. I will obviously special shout out to my queer baking partner for life, Fatty O'Day. He was like my entire rock for that whole process. Um, and like pretty much every night after filming, even though like it was exhausting o'clock at night, um, I would just go to his room and we watched like an episode of Drag Race while like looking through recipe books together, and like it was like our cool down, and it was great.
So that answers my next question. Did you form micro communities or communities on set?
Yes. I cannot share all of them with you because some of them are trade secrets that we must keep for life. No one told us that we need to keep them for life. We just decided. But yeah, like Fatty, me, we obviously became really good friends. Everyone on the set became really good friends. It was hard. It was hard saying goodbye to people when they went home. Um, because while you are only watching us baking, we're living together, we're interacting all day for a really like short period of time, but a very intense and a very emotional period of time. So um it was really hard to see people go home, and like every tear you saw was 100% real, because all of us were like really heartbroken that another friend has to leave our fun little weird baking sleepaway camp that we have.
Um, are there any unsung heroes or a specific hero on the set of cooking shows? Think about it.
I mean, literally everyone. But like, I mean, the entire crew, like everyone that doesn't get to be seen on camera. You know, obviously we have the bakers and the judges, and the bakers, we worked our faces off, obviously. And the judges are so freaking incredibly supportive and smart and intelligent. And so, like, obviously, like, everyone on camera was great, but like, that entire crew was so amazing. And like, our deck chief, Anne, she was the sweetest. She was a tough cookie, and you couldn't get anything around her. And she would just yell, "Settle!" And like that was your cue. Like if you were whispering to someone, like "Settle!" Like you're here. But like she was also the sweetest. Like she would come up to each baker and like we had like a little like ritual. Like, you know, for me, she would adjust my collar, and like for Andrew, she like fixed his bow tie, and we just like it was like her little moment to just check in with us and see like how we were doing, even though, you know, like she had an incredibly hard job to do, but like she would just make sure to have a personal connection with each one of us like every single day, just to make sure like we remembered like she's here for us, you know, even though she's yelling "settle" all the time, like in the end she's here for us.
Before the quarantine happened, we did a show to Oberon, and I feel that way about all the staff there. Next question: can I call my freezer a blast chiller, and what's the difference?
You cannot. So, I will associate a blast chiller by using something that you've probably heard of before, which is a convection oven. So if you have a convection oven that has a fan in it that is blowing the air around and circulating it faster than a regular oven, so different things are going to bake differently because of that air. So a blast chiller is essentially a convection freezer. So what that's doing is it's much faster chilling the surfaces of the foods and then the insides, obviously, because it is constantly blowing the cold air all around the freezer. And so there's no like cold spots or warm spots. And if you put something hot in the blast chiller, it's not just the heat's not just going to live in that one item. It's going to blow all and disperse. And then like the freezer will kind of regain its frozen status. So yeah, you can't call your freezer a blast chiller. I mean, unless like every time you open the door, you're like blast off, but like
Blast
it's not
off!
gonna be real.
I'm gonna do it. Could you define craft services for us?
I don't know. They give us food so we can eat. I don't know. I think it was like catering a lot.
Did you ever snack from the pantry kitchen instead of craft services?
I mean, I didn't eat real meals in the pantry kitchen because like there wasn't real meals. But like I would definitely in the middle of a challenge, if I had a second, go and I definitely needed that item for my dish. I promise.
Okay, so we're gonna play rapid fire. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay.
Stream of conscience. Boxers
Briefs.
or briefs? Okay, coffee or tea?
Tea.
What scares you?
I'm scared of the dark and heights.
What brings you joy?
I love my friends, and I love making things for people.
Favorite flower?
The one I made on the cupcake that was too big, and the judges didn't like it, but I love it.
Favorite word?
Ooh, abominable, because I suck at pronouncing it sometimes.
How old are you?
32. Wait, I'm 31.
I get it wrong all the time, too.
Yeah, I'm 31. Best snack. Cheez-Its.
Favorite artwork?
Favorite artwork. Like, of all artworks?
You can pick. It's
I'm
okay.
gonna say your lighting designs.
Oh, thank you. What's your favorite song?
Favorite song? I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Song of the week.
Song of the week? Let's go with, that song. You Will Be Found. You Will Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen. I hate the show, but I love the music.
What color are your sheets?
They're like a charcoal.
Ooh. Socks or no socks?
Socks.
Sandals or boat shoes?
Boat shoes? Neither. I'm barefoot like 95% of my life.
Makes sense. Favorite vegetable?